Good morning. Can everybody hear me all right? Good morning. Good morning. My name is Nathan Cortner. I am so incredibly excited to be standing before you this morning. Like Jared said, Bo and Stacy have taken a little vacation, and he has asked me to step in for him. So again, I'm so incredibly honored and excited to be here. One of my favorite things about life is stories. A story that I heard recently comes from the famous, iconic coach of Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden is a historic football coach at Florida State University. He coached there for 34 years. In that 34 years, he only had one losing season. There was a period from 1987 to the year 2000 that he won a minimum of 10 games. Minimum. There was also in the 9-year span of that 13-year span that he only lost 2 conference games. And then all of that culminating in 2 national championships in the early 90s. The man's iconic, the man's awesome, but he would also tell stories to his players, but for preseason practices, just to kind of get them to understand the ultimate purpose of what they're doing. One of the stories that he would always tell is when he was a college baseball coach, he would baseball was really his first love. One of his greatest regrets is that he never really got the opportunity to hit a home run during a baseball game. A home run, obviously during batting practice, you can tee off on the ball as hard as you want, but during the game, there's strategy and there's purpose to every at-bat. So one of his last collegiate baseball games, he got up there and he hit an absolute bomb to right field. Clearly, he saw the ball land in the field and did not go out of the stadium, but the right fieldman was out of position. And because he was out of position, he had to run a very long way to get the ball. So when he was running, Bobby just poured on the gas, and he was running as fast as his legs would carry him. When he rounded second, he saw the third baseman coach just, come on, keep coming, keep coming. He sent him around third, he sent him home, and he was safe. An inside the park home run, which is, pretty great. It's actually more rare than actually hitting a home run. Curious thing happened, though. Bobby watched the ball come back into play. The pitcher caught it, and the pitcher threw it to first base. First baseman caught it, tagged the base, and Bobby was out. Apparently, during the celebration, the enormous adrenaline rush that was going through, he forgot to touch first base. And according to baseball rules, when you don't touch first base, what ends up happening is that you lose credit for what you just did. Bobby would later go on and just tell his players, you know what? If you don't touch first base, what's the point? And he would go on to further tell his players, if you don't trust the Lord, if you don't honor him first, then what's the point? One of the greatest coaches of our time took this very simple athletic story and applied it to something spiritual. And I think that's so great and so incredible. And ultimately, when I think about this story and I reflect on it, I really land on this idea of obedience. Obedience to the one who made us, the one who created us. There is really not much else that we are called to do except for be obedient to our Father. When I'm thinking about this, it really just land on this idea that it takes an elevated level of obedience to live this Christian lifestyle that we are set before us. It takes an elevated level of obedience. This morning, I want to spend a little time in Psalms 37, and we're going to talk about 3 things that I really believe that will help us not only recognize what it's like to be obedient, what it takes to be obedient, but we can turn our lives back to him. So if you'll turn there with me, Psalms 37, verse 3 through 5. Verse 3 reads like this: Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. First thing that we must do in order to really commit our lives to Christ is we just got to show commitment to him. I really believe that's what it takes. That's really our first step, is showing commitment. According to Romans 12, chapter 12, verse 2, it reads like this: Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the reviewing of your mind. Then you will be able to trust and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Not only every single day we are supposed to renew our mind, we're supposed to transform our mind, we're supposed to take that extra step and spend time with God. And then after we spend time with God, what we learn and what we C is what we're supposed to apply to our lives. That is an incredible process every single day, a process that is incredibly hard. And if you're anything like me, I wake up in the morning and I have this tunnel vision mindset. Tunnel vision to the point to where I am put my nose down and I just try to get through my day. And when I get through my day, I look up and the day is over and I realize I've missed God. I miss God all around me. If you were here a couple weeks ago, Pastor Bo was teaching on the second chapter of Ruth. In the second chapter of Ruth, he really implored us to take a look about if you think God is not around us and not working in us, then take a look at the people around you that he's placed in your life for you. That's a blessing in and of itself, right? When I think of commitment, most of you don't really probably know this about me, but I'm a thrill seeker. I love adrenaline rushes. I love adventure. From the ripe age of 6, I was riding roller coasters, flips, turns, whatever you want to call it. I was doing it at the age of 2. To my dad's probably disappointment, he was out in the yard working on a sprinkler head or something like that. And I decided to walk across the street of the busy street in Manhattan, Kansas. And he turns around, he can't find me, and I'm just simply standing across the street just waving. I don't know if my dad's ever actually gotten over that. But there's no greater thrill in my life than when I think about the time I went skydiving. Now, skydiving, for some people, is good enough to get in the plane, attach yourself to an instructor, and tandem jump from 10,000 feet. For me, that's not good enough. I decided I want to do this by myself. I'm responsible for my own cord. So I go through the training. I do all the required paperwork. You sign all this paperwork that's saying that you cannot sue the university, if anything were to happen to you. It's a very ominous-like feeling. And I do all the training. I do all the classwork. And I get there the following weekend. I suit up. I get my parachute. And I get in the plane. Now, when you get in the plane, it's this very small plane, barely looks like it can get off the ground, and there's about 4 people in there, plus myself, and plus the pilot, and it's just a very tight space. And then our instructor's with us. He's going over what this is going to look like, how it's going to feel, what you're going to see. At this point, I am not really thinking or hearing him correctly. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to jump out of a plane. I start to question my own sanity. I start to question, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. I have no idea what I'm getting ready to do. And the simple concept of fear takes over. The simple concept of fear, when they open that door for the first time at 2,500 feet and you look down, you really start to question, what am I getting ready to do? And the guy's like, thumbs up. And of course, me being the thrill seeker I am, I volunteered to be number 1. I volunteered to be the first one out the plane. Little background on skydiving, if you've never done it before. If you try to jump your first time by yourself, what you have to end up doing is called a static line jump. A static line is simply a 5-yard cord that they attach to the base of the plane, and they attach it to your chute, so when you fall out of the plane, it pulls your chute for you, and you're no longer required to maintain that because you're experiencing all this for the very first time. But unfortunately, you can't just roll out of the plane like other people would do. You have to go through this very complex procedure, and it's actually very scary. The first thing you do is you have to open the door, obviously, and there's this little platform that you have to step on. It's about 1.5 feet long, and you have to put your feet on it. You put your feet on it. Keep in mind you're looking down the whole time. Step 2 is you have to stand up, out of the plane, and you're holding onto the door. Step 3 is you have to grab this thing called the strut of the plane, and the strut is a beam that connects the wing to the base of the plane, so I actually have to grab it with 2 hands and hold on to it while I'm standing there. Step 4 is I have to actually remove myself from the platform, and I'm literally just hanging there. I'm just hanging there, hanging on for dear life. You're right. I see some faces. It's very scary. The funny thing is, they call this the point of no return, because it's the point of no return because there's literally nothing you can do or they can do to get you back in the plane. You're gonna fall out of this plane one way or the other, and the pilot actually told me, if you're not off in 60 seconds, I'm gonna rock the plane, and you're gonna fall off by yourself. So one way or another, you're getting to the ground. And once I got my bearings, I looked at my instructor, and he said, dot. And when he says dot, I look at this little dot underneath the wing of the plane. I look at it, it's supposed to elevate my neck so it takes the whiplash away, and you're supposed to let go. And you just have to let go. And you have to trust that this cord is going to pull your chute. And you experience about 5 seconds of free fall, and then your chute pops out, you grab the cords, and you're able to glide back your way back down. And really just admire the incredible beauty that is Kansas. Some of you will never get to see that, but that's okay. I think of our lives. I think of commitment to Jesus, and I really believe our lives, our Christian walk, is like we're holding on to that strut of the plane. We're holding on desperately. And there are times in our lives and there are things in our lives that we just simply cannot let go of. Our Christian walk can sometimes be like we're walking around with a clenched fist, and we do not want to let go. In our lives, that may look like finances. It may look like relationships. It may look like some sinful habits that you just cannot kick. It may look like something's going on with your family or school or sports. The list goes on and on and on. But to show commitment to Jesus Christ, he commands us to let go. And when we let go, we actually really show that he is able to work in our lives. So, first of all, we must commit. We must commit our lives back to him. Secondly, we must delight. Verse 4 says, "We take delight in the Lord, and he will give us the desires of our heart." Now, allow me for a second to illustrate. There's this very different idea of commitment and delight. Commitment, if you really think about it, some synonyms for commitment are loyalty, a decision. It's a commitment that you have to make. And it's not exactly the easiest thing to do, because sometimes if you're like me, we let commitments go. We do. But I think of the word delight, and I think of adoration. I think of care. I think of love. We're supposed to delight in our relationship with our Savior. I think of my relationship with God, and what I understand to be true is something boils up inside of me that I am so incredibly excited. I'm so incredibly moved, emotionally moved, and how can I not be excited about my relationship with my Savior? The last part of that verse says, "He'll give us the desires of our heart." Now, if you'll allow me for a second, I would love to tell you a little bit about my life and how I have experienced that myself. So, most of you know, my students know, some of the volunteers know as well, that my start in student ministry was through a ministry called Young Life. Young Life is a great organization that reaches out to the lost kids ages 12 through 21 throughout the world, with the sole mission of sharing the gospel with them just through authentic relationships, and it's really an incredible thing. I had the wonderful opportunity to lead a class of boys from the age when they were 7th graders all the way through their senior years of high school. And it was really the greatest opportunity of growth, and I have they're some of my best friends. A couple of them will be my groomsmen at my wedding, and it's really just a great thing, a great opportunity. But something really not crazy happened. Young Life started becoming my identity. It became this thing, I saw it before I saw myself. And because I did that, and I did not spiritually and physically take care of myself, I got burnt out. I had to take a step back, and I had to understand that this isn't my life. It's not who I am, it's just what I do. After my boys graduated their senior year of high school, what I ended up deciding to do is take a break. And I thought this would just be a summer break. I might jump back into ministry somehow, shape, or form, but I'm just tired. I'm so tired. And what ended up happening is after they graduated, the first month was great. I had no commitment. I had no desire to go out and spend time with people. And what ended up happening is I fell back into this place to where I needed to serve, and I recognized I had no direction in my life. One of the deepest desires of my life, of my heart rather, is to be of service to the Lord. And what I recognize to be true is that I did not have that direction. I did not have that desire. I didn't have that purpose. Funny story happened a couple weeks later, really, after that. The last week of June, I get a phone call from a friend, and she is interning at our church, and they're getting ready to go to summer camp. And this crazy thing happens where they just need another male small group leader. I get the phone call. I have vacation I need to use. I need a break from reality. I think this would be a great opportunity to do that. So I take the opportunity, make the drive, hang out with the kids, go to camp, and it was really this great opportunity. A lot of you know this story because that's my story of how I ended up here. My friend, being Taylor Thompson, the oldest daughter of Bo and Stacy, her and I became friends a couple years before that, and she invited me. And then I came down here. I got to experience camp with these students, some that are still here, some that have moved on and graduated, and it was really just a great week. After that, we were driving back, and we're about 2 hours west of McKinney, and something crazy happened. Jared, being the student pastor of the time, approached me, and we were just filling up our vans with gas and just trying to make the last push home. And he's encouraging me. He was telling me, he's like, maybe you should consider student ministry for the long term. And I just really thought he was just being nice. I really thought he was just trying to lift me up and show appreciation for what this past week meant to him, and which was great. But something about that conversation really stuck in my mind. It kept on coming up and up again and again, the months coming up. And what I know to be true is that that's not by accident. So October rolled around, I made the phone call to Jared, and I was like, I would love to figure out what full-time ministry looks like in my life. And a little over a year ago now, I had the opportunity to interview for this job. And it was a whirlwind process. I got the official yes the last week of December, then I moved the following week on January 5th. And if I'm just being very, very honest, it has been the greatest decision I've ever made in my life. For those who don't know, who have never interacted with any of our students here, you guys are missing out. We have some of the best students in the area. These guys are awesome. I don't think they ever understand how awesome they are and how big of a blessing they've been to my life. I have the greatest volunteers in the world. For all those who spend time with the students, thank you, thank you, thank you from the very bottom of my heart. I can never say thank you anymore. The staff here is great, and then you all have welcomed me beyond measure. I have never felt more at home. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But I love being here. I've never felt homesick, which that was a huge concern for me. I've never lived anywhere other than Manhattan, Kansas my entire life. Never left that place longer than 3 weeks, and I was suddenly giving my life towards something else. And what I recognized to be true is that the first day I stepped in the office here, I was happy. And if I can keep going down the list. In March, 2 of my students introduced me to their cousin, who's actually now my fiance. And yeah, it's pretty great. And it's like I can keep going down the blessings that I have been giving. And it all simply started with this desire to be of service to the Lord, and to be this desire that I needed to find my place and my purpose. And he has given that to me and more through Ray's Mill. And I could not be more excited about that. And finally, the last thing we must do is we must trust him. So first of all, we must show our commitment to him, right? Second of all, we must delight in him. And third of all, we must trust in him. Now, we have countless opportunities to do good around us. We have countless opportunities to influence the people around us, to influence their families, to influence their friends, to influence our coworkers. It is amazing the kind of things that we can go do. If you further explore the chapter, Psalms 37, David the psalmist is illustrating that there is a lot going on around in the nation of Israel. If you look carefully, verse 9 says, "For those who are evil will be destroyed, but those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land." Verses 12 to 13 says, "The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them, but the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming." I think David is trying to illustrate to the nation of Israel that we have to trust him, and he's going to protect us and guide us through whatever comes our way. Hardships, trials come our way every single day. It's electronically, right? Social media is a thing now. It is roaring through our country like it is unstoppable. It's estimated that if you are under the ages of 30, then you will, on average, touch your phone, including texting, scrolling through the internet, and kind of stuff like that, a little under 3,000 times a day. Think every time you type out a text message, that counts as one tap, 3,000 times a day. It is amazing how incredibly powerful technology can be for the benefit and not for the benefit as well. I think at school and at work, there are so many things that come our way that can be detrimental to us, but we have to trust him to show us the way through. Proverbs 3, 5 through 6 says that we must submit to him and always, for he will make our path straight. I've gotten the incredible experience of submitting my life to Jesus, and I ended up here. And it's been the greatest thing that I've ever gotten to experience. To close with you, I would like to give you guys a couple application points that I think that will really help us take that next step. And first of all, we just have to evaluate our lives. We have to evaluate where we are in commitment, where we are in trusting the Lord, and where we are to delighting in him. And the next thing I would really encourage you guys to do is find out what the next step is. Take that next step. Take that step to where you can really show an elevated level of commitment to him, or an elevated level of delight, elevated level of trust. And I would encourage you guys, find a way to let go. Simply just find a way to let go. Thirdly, and I think it's appropriate that I touch on this for a second, is just be thankful. Thanksgiving is coming up. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays that I get to experience throughout the year. And it's one of my favorite holidays because we literally just get to stop and spend time with the ones we love. It's a beautiful thing. Some of my favorite, most fondest memories of my family is sitting across from them at the dinner table at Thanksgiving. What irritates me and what bothers me is that our culture and society has really transitioned this way to consumerism. And consumerism in the form of Black Friday and massive, crazy shopping. I will admit I love Black Friday shopping, so I don't actively contribute to it, but I love getting out and experiencing that. But what I would really encourage you guys is in that time, take account of what you have in front of you. Give thanks to the Lord for what you have. When I think of commitment, I think of delight, and I think of trusting in him. All those are wrapped up into obedience. And when we are obedient to him and he gives us the desires of our own heart, how can we not be thankful? This last year for me, the theme is thankfulness. So many things in my life that I've wanted, I've been given. Now, my life's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But I've been given so much. How can I not be thankful for what I've been given? I encourage you guys to cherish the ones that you love, cherish the ones that you've been given this week, and just recognize that if you delight in him, you trust him, and ultimately you show your commitment to him, you can take a step back and say, I'm good. I'm good. I'm telling you right now, in my life, the way everything I look at and all the blessings I've been given, including you all, I can take a step back and say, I'm good. Will you pray with me?